Good morning, everybody. Shane McCusker here, Intelligent Software. Welcome to another webinar. Today we're going to be talking about business information, how to get it, what to do with it, how to make more placements, about getting visibility of your business, to find out what's going on internally, and also to find out what's going on in the marketplace so you can spot opportunities, take advantage of it, and make more placements. All well and good. A little bit about myself for anybody who doesn't know me. Hopefully you do by this stage. My name is Shane McCusker. I run Intelligent Software. I develop information management systems for recruitment agencies, which is perfectly aligned with today's webinar topic of trying to get visibility and make more placements. I'm also fairly heavily involved with some social recruiting things. I run a couple of groups on LinkedIn for South African Recruiters Group and South African Jobs Group. I also write a blog, Shane's Recruiting Blog, intel-sw.com/blog, which is really where you'll catch the back catalogue of all my webinar stuff and anything else I happen to throw up there. I also get involved in with Bill Borman in some of his conferences for recruitment, so that takes me around the world talking to recruiters all over the place. Next week I'm in Dublin, through Dublin. Hopefully later on in the year I'll be running through SA in South Africa, which went really well last year. So keep an eye on what's going on and hopefully we can do things together at some stage. Now, today's topic is all about management information, about trying to understand what's going on in your business, spot the opportunities, and make more money. And this is an area that's very close to my own heart because it's an area that I feel is very neglected within the recruitment industry. And the reason it's very neglected is because it's actually quite difficult. If you think of how complicated your business is, all the different things that are going on there, all the different possibilities as to what's going to happen in the future, it's very difficult to condense that complicated information onto one A4 sheet of paper so you can get clarity what's going on and make decisions. And this is the key thing. It's not enough to simply say what's going on, but you need to do it in a way that you can improve upon the past so that the future gets better, and something you can make some predictions about what's going on in the future, and you can improve. There's lots of ways that people do this at this moment in time, whether it be whiteboards or Excel spreadsheets or information management systems or just knowing stuff, keeping it all in your head, and that's all well and good. So I'm going to kick off the webinar. I'm going to poll. I don't normally run polls. I'm going to do one here now if I can get this one to work. I'm asking a question. I'm saying, maybe you could tell me, who do you have a whiteboard in your office? Please click yes or click no, and we'll see how many people vote on this. I have this theory. Whiteboards, recruitment is a very, very old profession, and it predates technology by a very long way, but a lot of companies have whiteboards. Let's see what's going on, how many people we've got voting now. Most people have voted. Let's see now. If I close the poll, there. I'm hopeful now you'll be able to see the results of it. We've got about 2/3 of our audience have a whiteboard, 38%, slightly less than 2/3, 38% don't. So about 2/3 of recruiters have whiteboards. I actually thought it was going to be higher than that. Sorry, I just want to make sure you're back to my screen again. Okay, here we go. So, whiteboards are wonderful. It's a very common thing. Most recruitment companies, well, at least 2/3 of them anyway, have a whiteboard. And that's because it's a simple way to give you visibility of what's going on. It's also quite useful in terms of, motivating staff, in terms of if you write your name and lots of activity beside your name, everybody can see it or not. It's about giving you big picture information. It's about sharing information. But there's all sorts of disadvantages to whiteboards, and I don't really like them that much. They're manual, so it requires somebody to actually stand up and physically fill in the information. If they don't do it, then it's not up to date. It's very limited. People use whiteboards to show what placements have been made, what vacancies we've got on at this moment in time, how many send-outs there have been in terms of CVs or interviews or whatever else. So, but it doesn't give you the subtle detail. You can't drill into it particularly well. It tends to be historic. In other words, it's what's happened rather than what's going to happen, although some people do have whiteboards that do projections, but generally speaking, most people's whiteboards tend to be the start. But my biggest gripe about whiteboards is that they're uninformative, and I was going to use the word useless, although that's a little bit harsh, in the sense that it doesn't give you information, generally speaking, you can take decisions on. Look at your whiteboard at this moment in time, if you have one, and say, well, what information do I react to there that changes my course in the future to enable me to be more productive? And so what we really want from information management systems is something that will actually help me make decisions and do things in the future that are going to improve my business. A better whiteboard, what would it be like? Forget the word whiteboard, think of information management in the bigger sense. It needs to be automatic. So when something happens, your system needs to react to it. When I say system, I don't mean a technology system. I mean, if the system is that the person next to you tells you that there's a phone call for you, then that's a system. So it needs to be automatic. It needs to be all-encompassing. It needs to be bigger than just what's immediately in front of you. You need a system that can collect information from far and wide, analyze information from far and wide, whatever the source may be, and enable you to do something useful. It needs to be predictive. It needs to give you some gauge as to what is going to happen in the future. And certainly, if you take a particular course of action, what is going to happen. But most of all, it needs to be useful. It needs to enable you to take decisions. So this is what we're trying to get to today. We're trying to look at ways in which you can use information more effectively and develop a better whiteboard. I have this wonderful goal with regards to information management. I want to make the whiteboard redundant. I want to have my whiteboard pool reduced down to nothing, because you don't need a whiteboard anymore, because you're replacing it with better systems working. This is my goal. Imagine, if you will, and everybody can imagine their own thing, what it would be like to have an absolutely fantastic business, an absolutely fantastic business mechanism, information management system. I use the two words very similarly because information management is what recruitment companies do. Imagine you're the perfect recruiter. You've got your finger on the pulse. You know what's going on. You know who to call and when to call them. So you know who's going to be recruiting, you know the skills that they're looking for, you know the candidates that can fill those gaps, and you're able to bring the whole thing together seamlessly, automatically, with ease. If you can do that, you can make money. You need to be relaxed and in control. Recruitment is one of the most hectic and dynamic businesses. There are so many things you're working on. Most recruiters work between 10, 20, 30 vacancies at any one moment in time. How many candidates you've got? You've got potentially thousands of candidates that you're dealing with, and you've got to have some sense as to what's going on. You need to be decisive in the sense that this decision-making aspect needs to be coming to the fore with all your information management systems and all your systems within business. Imagine you have all this as an individual recruiter, but imagine you are able then, as a super recruiter, to manage a team of other super recruiters. Imagine that all your team are able to operate at the highest levels. I've often made the observation that a really good recruiter isn't just a bit better than everybody else. A really good recruiter tends to be, 2 or 3 times, maybe 10 times the billing level of your average to poor recruiter. And why is that? I mean, a really good recruiter doesn't make 10 times more calls than the average. In fact, the average probably makes more calls than a really good recruiter. The really good recruiter has this incredible knack of making very few calls, but making lots of placements, because they know who to call and when to call. And it's that if we get this insight into your business, whereby you can understand what's going on, see who's good at what, and be able to support that, see who's weak in areas and be able to improve upon that, then you're going to be able to manage a better team more effectively and do more with it. So this is the goal that I'm trying to get to talk about. Okay, I'm going to, today I sort of built it talking about reports, but I don't actually mean reports. It's really about getting information to you in a way that you can make decisions with it. And there's 2 aspects of this. There's sort of reporting and there's sort of alerts. And I'm just going to define this now so that when I wander off into other areas, you've got some understanding as to what I'm going to talk about. Reports, people tend to think of reports as sort of the A4 page that you print out, and it tells you what CVs have been sent out, what candidates are registered, what offers have been made, what placements you've made, what your commission is, activity reports, who's done what. And they tend to be, one, initiated by you, so you print it out and bring it along to your weekly meeting. They tend to be static, although it can be, it can be a worksheet. Okay. Alerts tend to be something else. It tends to be something that is automatic. It tends to be dynamic. It's, well, it could be the person next to you saying there's a phone call for you. It's something that interrupts your day-to-day basis, but it's something that needs action. It could be when you look at a new company, automatically telling you who you know that works there. On LinkedIn, you look at a company on LinkedIn and tells you here's your connections that work there. If you use intelligence, intelligence does the same. It tells you everybody you know who works in that company, whether it be candidates or clients or references or whoever it is. It automatically presents you this information so that you can't help but trip over the opportunities. The difference between reports and alerts are brilliant at telling you what to do when you need to do it. Reports are really good at telling you what you've missed or where the mistakes are, or, it tends to be more reflective. Reports tend to be quite good at giving you information when you want to access it. So I've got my call list for the week is a report, but my call back, as in you have a meeting right now or in 20 minutes time, it's an immediate thing. And so we look at different ways of using information, different ways. The timing of information is very important. The way the information is delivered to you is very important. Apologies for that. This also is a bit abstract, but I hope you can get around my thought processes. Okay. There are different types of reporting, and inevitably we start off looking at the what has happened scenario and the different types of reports that people ask us for. And inevitably it's about, these are the type of reports. It's the activity reports, it's the what has happened in the past. It tends to be historic. But it's very useful. It's very useful to get a picture of what's going on. Some of the problems we have with it is very dependent on the information available to you. And so, particularly activity reports, when you're saying, what have I done? What has the team done? Whenever you record information with intelligence, I'll actually show you intelligence. I'll show you one of the problems we had. It's open on my computer. This is intelligence. And one of the things, this is a candidate screen, so if I want to talk to this candidate, I might create a contact record called about a job, and I can classify that. This is one of the big problems we have. This classification drop-down list, this is what I put in as default, which I thought was a good idea at the time, but it actually turned out to be a disastrous idea. And it's one of the mechanisms I have checking up on our customers just to see how switched on and on the ball they are. Whenever you do something and you classify it, it's particularly useless for me to classify this as a phone call because it doesn't allow me to take a decision. It's one of these things, why am I recording information if I'm not going to use it? So what I'm actually urging our customer base to use is to go in immediately and change this from the default to something more useful. Don't classify a call as a phone call. Classify it as, is this a business development call? Am I ringing this person to seek referrals? Am I ringing this person to talk to them about the job? Am I ringing this person to offer them a job? These are things that you can actually measure and report on and do analysis on and KPIs on, whatever. So whenever you actually record information, you need to understand why you're recording information. Don't record information you're not going to use. And when you do record information, use it for something. So whenever we do these and you look at activity reports, I'll show you an activity report. This is quite a good one. This is, if you want to say, okay, for this particular user, this is Shane, he does a whole lot of different types of activities, and I'm just basically looking at the quantity of these activities. And this gives me a sense, mainly gives me a sense because of the fact that I'm analyzing this over a period of time. So for a number of weeks, I can see trends. I can see for week 4 and week 5, Shane was on holidays. I can see if there's vacancies coming on board, how that relates to other things. So I can see client business development calls, how many of those, the results in vacancies, those vacancies, how many CVs were sent out, how many candidate calls, and I can sort of plot things through. So it gives me a sense of what's going on. But this is big picture stuff. And with these reports, these what has happened reports, they're quite good in terms of either giving you big picture information, but you can drill into it and see minute detail. So other activity reports I might have might say, okay, what happened yesterday? I want to see all the detail as to what was spoken about. I used to run, when I ran a recruitment team, I used to run activity reports every day. One, it gave me a sense of what was going on, but it also meant that the team that was working for me had a sense that I was looking at what they were doing. And so it meant that it tended to make people focus on what was going on. I used that to have conversations with people, so if it wasn't on the piece of paper in front of me, then it didn't happen. And it encouraged people to use the system and engage with the system, and the system became a much more of a backbone for the business. So those are some of the things that we were using the what has happened type reporting for. Next, I find this much more useful. It's the what has not happened. What has not happened, we're talking about exception reports. We're talking about reporting in a way that enables you to make decisions. The historic stuff is great for giving you a pat on the back in terms of saying what's actually happened, but it's not very useful in terms of telling you what you need to do next. Think of all the different types of exception reports there are. It's about catching mistakes. So a candidate gets loaded onto the system, but not all their information is captured. That's what I want to know. I don't want to know how many people have been loaded on. I want to know who's been loaded on that needs corrected. What if you have candidates who work for clients that you don't know or work for companies you don't know? So you want an exception report to show you, right, what information do we not have on the system based on candidate information on our client database. It's about ensuring the correct actions are taken. So this is great in terms of you'll have alerts to tell somebody to do something, but the manager gets told whenever they don't do something. So if somebody's put in their diary, they have to call somebody. If you don't see a contact note on that date, then the manager needs to be alerted to the fact, hold on, somebody's slipping up here, dropping the ball. Do they need more help? Do they need more support? Do they need a rap over the knuckles? Or maybe they did it and they just didn't record it in the system, so there's some sort of check mechanism there. So the what's not happening report, I think, is much more useful than the what has happened report. But a whole lot of our clients and a whole lot of people in the recruitment industry, they don't have the tools or haven't thought about structuring the question in that way. And this whole matter of information management is about posing the correct question at the right time. What else have we got? Let's report on it. So what's happened, what's not happened, here's the cracking one. What's going to happen? Asking questions about pipeline reports. Now, a pipeline report is, if you're in business development, it's what's going to happen in the future, but you don't know what's going to happen in the future. But do you make predictions on it? If you're going to make predictions as to what's going on, then you need to capture that. How do you capture that information? Do you record it in the system at this moment in time? Maybe it's automatic. Maybe you simply say, well, the probability of making a placement goes up whenever we actually have candidates going for interview, and it goes up even more whenever they're at second interview. It goes up a bit more whenever they're at offer stage. So you can automatically assign predictive values, probabilities to pipelines, or you may do it manually. It enables you to plan resources. It enables you to see changes in the market. You know, if you look at what's going to happen from the point of view of saying, well, where are we getting more and more candidates coming from? What's the skill base of our candidate pool at this moment in time? What's the skill base of the people we're replacing? What companies are laying people off? What companies are hiring? If you can actually be a bit predictive about what's going on and construct information management systems that give you this, even from a point of view, if we run birthday reports for some of our clients, they just wanted to send out birthday greetings to candidates. They felt it differentiated them. It felt it made them do something that nobody else was doing. And a what is going to happen report to say whose birthdays are coming up. It's just simple, effective system, constantly keeping in touch with your community, constantly keeping in touch with what's going on. The reporting that I'm going to talk about is really sort of bringing all these things together, and it's the what does it all mean. This is where we're getting into asking simple questions but more complex answers, and we're looking at taking information and combining it together so you can make decisions, so that you're really getting an insight as to what goes on. So this is where you're saying, okay, we're looking at comparisons between information. Say you take two members of your team, look at ratio analysis. You're saying, okay, what's your conversion ratios? How many candidates arrived? How many CVs did you send out? From those CVs, how many interviews did you get? From those interviews, how many offers did you get? From those offers, how many placements did you make? I remember talking to a recruiter who was looking at this analysis and realized that one of his staff had a really low number in terms of the number of offers to the number of placements. In other words, a lot of people were getting offers, but then either not taking them or dropping out. And over a team of people, you could see, well, that person's doing something wrong there. And simply by looking at the ratio analysis, he was able to go in and say, you need to ask more questions about your candidates in terms of counter-offers, in terms of qualifying them for the jobs, really get an understand as to what type of job do they want. So he was putting everybody forward for interviews. Everybody was getting the interviews because they were good, strong people. But ultimately, he was putting them forward for the wrong jobs, or they were getting counter offers and were dropping out. So whenever you were able to analyze the information that you're getting in ways that make sense to your business, then you can take corrective action and do more with it. Hey, I have some challenges for you. And this is where I wanted to try and use this webinar to motivate change within your organization. So I just wanted to try and throw some stuff out there. By all means, get your team of people together and create challenges for yourself. But I'm just going to throw some stuff out there to see if it sparks a chord in your head about what you can do in your business to change things. Everybody's got, well, 2/3 of you have got whiteboards at this moment in time. But here's an idea. What about creating a whiteboard, not for your business, but for one of your competitors? Think about it. All the candidates come in, ask them questions about your competitors and do something with that information. Ask them, what other agencies are you registered with? What jobs have they got on at this moment in time? Try and find out what jobs your competitors have. Try and find out what jobs your competitors are filling. You should know that. You can ask your clients as well, what other agencies have you given this job to? The job that, if an agency fills a job, or a client's job is filled, ask them who the agency was that filled it. You can build up a profile of who your competitors' staff are. You know who your competitors' big billers are and who the also-rans are. You'll get a sense from your candidates as to what's going on there. You can easily collect a lot of information about your competitors and what's going on there. What are you doing with it at this moment in time? Some of our clients specifically asked us to pull some reports together and work out ways to record this information. And the interesting thing was we could work out ways of doing it that really didn't add an awful lot of overhead onto the time of the consultants, because it was the sort of questions they were asking anyway. We just worked out a way that we could actually produce whiteboard type statistics for the competitors in a way that we were doing it for their businesses. So challenge number 1 is design a whiteboard for your competitors. Challenge number 2, something completely different. Record every action without any additional effort. Now that might seem simple. You might say to yourself, well, every time somebody comes in, we write it down in our big black book sitting in front of you. We do record everything we do, but you don't really, and you certainly don't do it in a way that enables you to analyze it in the depth that you may want to. And whenever I say every action, think about all the stuff that's going on there. So if you've got, say you're an intelligence user and you record every time you speak to somebody, do you or don't you? What happens if you just email somebody? Does your systems automatically record your emails that are going out? Does your system automatically record the emails that are coming in? What if you send a text message? What if you ring somebody on a mobile phone? What if you ring somebody on the landline phone? One of our clients has a system whereby they have a call log. It shows all the telephone numbers that people ring in the duration of the calls. And what they do is they cross-reference that with their client database or their candidate database, just to see if anybody's making phone calls they're not recording on the system, or indeed if anybody's recording on the system a phone call that isn't actually happening, and to try and quantify that. And that can happen automatically. I used to run a business and had a guy working for me who was super. My friend Neil. Neil's still one of the best recruiters, one of the highest billing recruiters I've ever come across. But he was an absolute disaster in terms of recording stuff in the system, and he was well known for it. And that's because it wasn't his fault. The system was not the path of least resistance to Neil. It was a case where if he wanted to email somebody, he just emailed them. He didn't go through the system. If you want to ring somebody, he just rang them. He didn't record it in the system. So your information systems need to be following the path of least resistance and record what's going on. Have a system that automatically monitors your email. Don't require somebody to have to write it down somewhere else. Don't ask your staff to fill in spreadsheets. That is a waste of their time. They need to be doing something rather than recording it. You need to think about every action. I was looking at a piece of software. This is just an extreme example. This is a thing called Rescue Time. And it's a little bit of software that sits on my computer and just monitors what I do. It watches the websites I'm on. It watches all the applications I'm using. Whenever I get up and leave my computer and come back again, it asks me, what were you doing for the last 10 minutes? And I record what it was. So it actually gets a sense of what I'm doing over time. It's free if you want to use it for an individual. You can pay them a little bit of money and use it for a team. But what it does is build up profiles of everything that I'm doing, and it's automatic. It just sits there giving me the information, tells me when I'm most productive, when I'm least productive. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked this well this week because I've actually been using a different computer. But, you know, it's an interesting idea, something worth looking at. There's all sorts of different systems you can use to capture information. What about looking at your website stats, tie your website stats into the applications you receive? Look at the sources for all your different job boards. See where your information is coming from. Okay, challenge number 3, capture future requirements so you can fill it. This was a problem that came to me. Really, a recruitment agency rang me up wanting to know if they could recruit for me. And we just recruited a salesperson, so I didn't need a salesperson. But I said, in 6 months' time, I probably will. And so I took the time, explained what we were and what we were looking for and the sort of skills we were looking for. And the recruiter on the other end of the phone listened diligently and hummed and hand said, oh yes, absolutely, we could fill that job for you. But I knew rightly, one, because I knew their company, I knew the system that they used, that that person wasn't going to be able to do anything with that detailed specification that I given them, because all they could record as real jobs or nothing at all. And here's a challenge for you. Have you got a mechanism whereby you can capture future requirements of a particular client in a way that if somebody comes along who meets that requirement, that skills base, that you can proactively go to that client and say, we have a perfect candidate for you? Most recruitment companies don't have the mechanisms to do that automatically and do it in a way that doesn't cause you any hardship. So what I'm saying is, can you create a mechanism or a structure within your organization that's so simple, doesn't add any overhead onto your business, doesn't require you to do anything that you're not already doing? That's a path of least resistance, but it'll automatically flag up to a recruiter when a candidate comes in and says, this is a company you need to talk to about this candidate, because this candidate matches the requirement spec that this company is going to have in the future. Think of ways in which you can do that. There's a challenge for you. My final challenge is a really simple one. Design an exception report. Exception reports are by far and away the most underutilized but most useful type of reporting out there. Think of it, you can do it in all sorts of different ways. Think of it from a point of view of just saying information that's not properly captured. What about if you have candidates that register with you, but you don't capture the type of information that you want to from them? Say you don't get references from them. Say you don't get leads for vacancies. Say you don't simply ask the question, what happens if you get a new job? What's your current employer going to do? If you set mechanisms up to say, okay, this is the information we want to get. When we don't get it, I want to know about it so that we can follow up on this. Exception reports are about tidying up your information, about doing something useful, about trying to spot failings in your system, catch it and repair it. So all you have to do is think of one area of your business and look for ways in which you can improve upon it. So design an exception report that gives you a mechanism to do it, even if it's just one person is tasked with doing it. If it's about having a spreadsheet where people come in, so you have a tick box to tick it off whenever you hit a target, simply reporting on whenever that information has not been complete, whenever you're reporting on something that has not been done. It's massively useful for your business. Take time after this webinar and see what you can do. Okay, we're going to go to Shane the recruiter. Shane's not a very good recruiter. Shane's a bit of a lazy recruiter who sort of gets by, makes a few placements, could do better. So we want to design a system around Shane that makes Shane's life easier and turns him into a super recruiter. Shane comes in on a Monday morning, and what does he do? First thing he does is he runs a smart call sheet. This tells him all the companies, all the people that he needs to call to try and get work on board. But what is a smart call sheet? A smart call sheet is something that analyzes the information that's available to you and tells them who to call. So it's not just an alphabetic list of these people you haven't spoken to in 6 months, albeit it could be. It's about trying to get better quality information in there. It's looking at what companies have just lost somebody that you've got skills that you can fill. What companies are about to recruit because of the fact that you know people are registering with you and are going to leave. You can do that. You can use intelligence, does it? But you can also use some of our free tools to do that. Intel-sw.com/search enables you to go in and search LinkedIn for people who have just changed job. Look at their employers to see what they do. All this stuff, there's lots of free ways to do this. There's lots of easy ways to do this. Design your own system to come up with these ideas. Develop a call sheet that gives your recruiters lists of people that they can call who've got a much heightened chance of getting a vacancy of. Shane does this. But as soon as he creates a company, how does he connect in there? As soon as he finds a prospect? Well, again, you need systems that automatically tell you who you know that works there. Intelligence does it automatically. Some of the other tools are developed to do it automatically, but you'll have other ways of doing it. Find out what candidates you know work there. Find out what your LinkedIn connections are that know there. Who in your social communities work there. Who do you know that works there? Candidate references who work there. everybody you know who works there. How do you find linkages in there? You need systems that automatically alert you to that. It's not a report, it's an alert. Say, for example, Shane, our lazy recruiter, then decides, oh, I know those people, I better send out a couple of emails. So he sends out a couple of emails. Well, that's the path of least resistance. You need to know what's going on there as a manager. So you need a system that automatically records the fact he's got these emails. There are systems in the market that will automatically log emails. Intelligence does it, and there are plenty of others that do it as well. Say he gets a reply. You need to make sure that the replies are automatically connected, because Shane's a lazy recruiter. He's not going to write it down anywhere. In fact, maybe Shane doesn't even set a call back to ring back to follow up on these emails that he's sending out. Maybe some of the emails come in saying, yeah, we do have vacancies. We'd be really interested in you helping us with them. But unless he acts on it, then how do you prevent that turning into a problem? Easy. You have a manager. A manager has an exception report. The exception report looks and says, okay, here's the people that we've contacted. How many of them have got callbacks set against them? Anybody who doesn't have a callback set against it, was the callback actioned? If the callback wasn't actioned, or you get a reply from the candidate, then why wasn't there a contact following up on that? You can run an exception report. You can run it daily, weekly. It catches Shane, the lazy recruiter, forgetting things. So the manager tells Shane, oh, you've got a report, a response to your advertisement. Create a vacancy for it. It creates a vacancy, and the vacancy automatically goes against the KPIs. So you can see how by having clever systems that are automatic and in tune with the way you want to work, you can do more, you can operate in a better way, a more effective way. The challenge is to you to dream the dream of what you want to do to run your business, and more effectively you can do that. Hopefully you found today's webinar useful. Thank you very much for your time and your time on today's webinar. If you've got any feedback, please let me know. And I look forward to running more webinars in the future.